Hi and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. It's been a while. So I took a couple of weeks off there. I was just feeling, I was going to say slumpy, but not like reading slumpy, like life slumpy, if that's a thing. I just was feeling very sociable and I was a bit done in, and so I just took some time for myself, really, and I'm glad that I did. I was even off work last week and I had so many plans. Like, I wanted to do some sprints and stuff because I've not done sprints at all this year, and it's something that I tried to get better at doing last year, and I wanted to host sprints at least every month this year, and I have not managed that yet, but I didn't, and I just spent my week off reading and playing Skyrim and eating far too many sweeties, and it was great. So I'll talk you through everything that I've been reading in July. Now, I haven't been reading a huge amount, but I do have more books to talk about than I normally would because I've not really been updating these. So I read This Coming Won't Break by Isabel Sterling, and this is the second book in the These Witches Don't Burn duology, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought that the series wrapped up so well, and I just really loved the first and second book of this, to be honest. I think it's one of the best duologies I've read for a while, and it was really lovely to just read some YA fantasy that wasn't annoying and generic and just following the same trends that absolutely every other YA fantasy is following. So I really loved this. I think that Hannah is a brilliant main character, and she definitely does act like a teenager sometimes, but she isn't overly annoying with it, and I think that she makes the wrong choices sometimes. She doesn't always get everything right, but that's fine. She always tries to correct her mistakes in the best way that she can. She reaches out to other people for help as opposed to just taking everything on herself, and I just thought she was an absolutely cracking main character for this. I really enjoyed this. I liked the overall message of this book, and I really loved how queer this duology was as well. I read the first one during Pride Month and it was excellent, and like I just loved this one even more so. We really get to see some brilliant character development for Hannah and her mum. We get to see her relationship blossoming, and it was just great. I was really emotional at this one at points, to be honest. There's some wee twists and turns in here that I didn't see coming that like really got me in my feels, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. This was a 5-star read for me. I would really recommend this duology to anybody who likes a witchy book, even if YA fantasy maybe isn't normally your cup of tea. I think that you would probably enjoy this because the magic system and the mythology or the different covens of witches is such a big part of this story that I think that you would still really enjoy it, and I don't think that this reads as YA as some other series do, so I'd recommend that. It was great. And then I read Last Seen Alive by Charlene Harris. I don't remember what number this is in the Aurora Teagarden series at this point. Oh well, 7, because we've done one a month. So 7. And I'm not going to say too much about this because we'll have a live show to talk about it, but I found Aurora very annoying in this one, to be honest, and it sort of made me realise that I've been finding her annoying throughout the entire series, and like I feel like I'm always trying to find a reason to justify her actions, or I'm always trying like to be like, well, she's gone through this, so like maybe, you know, and like justify why she acts and treats people in a certain way. Whereas in this book I was just like, Aurora is trash. Like, she is a garbage human. She is like the worst woman ever for like tearing another woman down and just being so ridiculously judgmental. But for some reason, even though I hate her, like I still want to finish the series out, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to realise that like I really hate her. This was just a cute cosy mystery. It's really interesting because they are sort of making a movie of the events of the first book, and so it was very reminiscent of the first book, obviously because we had all of that going on and sort of refreshing our memory. But then also like the situation that Aurora is in this book, like looking for a house, stuck between two romantic partners is exactly the same situation as she was in book one as well, so it was almost like a wee bit of a throwback to that, and I'm hoping that the rest of the series is going to improve a wee bit and we can just forget that like all the books in the middle of the series that featured Martin didn't really exist, to be honest. I'm not going to say too much else about this one because like I say, we will do a live show on it. So I ended up rating this one a 3-star in the end. Like, it was just sort of the middle of the road for me, but aye. And then I read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I've been wanting to read this book for absolutely ages, to be honest, and I have been holding off because Jem, Jack and Alice from the FOMO book club were reading this as part of their book club, so I wanted to join in and read it with them, and it was just an absolutely fantastic read. I read Circe by Madeline Miller and absolutely adored it, so I've had this on my radar for quite a while, but because the guys were having it as part of their book club, I was like, right, well, let me just pick it up. It was brilliant, like so good. I'm sure everybody knows what this is about at this point because like everybody has read this, everybody has cried about this book on the internet at this stage. I'm very late to the game, but it's a Greek mythology retelling about Achilles and Patroclus, and it was just absolutely excellent. This just captivated me for like the first page, and it was the same with Circe with Madeline Miller. Like, she just draws you in, and I don't feel like you would have needed to have read the Iliad to be able to have understood this. I think that Madeline Miller really does just focus her world around these characters, and so you don't really need to know a lot about Greek mythology to be able to pick up her work and to enjoy it. I broke my heart at this, truthfully. I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, and like, I appreciate most people have read this, but I still didn't want to spoil the end of it for anybody, but like, it broke me, and I stayed up far too late at night finishing this. I couldn't sleep, and Simon couldn't sleep, so Simon did the adult thing and got up to do some work, and I did the me thing and lay in bed and read, and he could hear me like properly sobbing, and he like ran through to the bedroom like to see if everything was alright. He thought like maybe I'd hurt myself or I had took like toothache or something like that, because I was properly like greeting, and it was just the book. So aye. This is a 5-star read for me. I was really drawn into the characters. I really loved the storyline. I loved the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus, and it just broke me. It made me so emotional. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought that the world that this was in was really interesting as well. I think that Madeline Miller always just captures sort of feel like the magic of the time, like just so well. She just makes everything seem really magical, and like even though we spent like a lot of this in an actual war zone, she still manages to sort of create this like, I don't know how to describe it, just like magical, fantastical world, and I just thoroughly loved it. 5-star read. I thought it was excellent. And then for my own book club, our pick for the month was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This has been on my radar for ages. I know that loads of people who I follow on BookTube have read this series and really enjoyed it. I know that Anne just had it on her radar for a wee while, and so when we were first talking about like potential book club picks back in the early days before we had even settled on the fact that we were doing fiction addiction, and we were just like brainstorming, like this was on the brainstorm list for books that we would potentially pick up. I'd heard nothing but good things. It was supposed to be very funny, very feminist, really great chronic illness rep, and I just an all-round winner of a book, so we had both wanted to pick it up for a long time. Simon bought it for me when we were in London for my birthday, so we were like, right, well, let's just pick it up then. I DNF'd this. It just was not for me. So we're way behind on our live shows for Fiction Addiction, to be honest. Like, I don't think we've done a live show since like March for Fiction Addiction. We're quite behind. I'm assuming we're going to do a live show for this one, but we are a wee bit behind, so we need to catch up. So I didn't want to share too much of my thoughts because I will talk about it there, but my main reason for DNF in this was I just really couldn't get on board to like Chloe as a main character. I just found her very annoying, and I felt like it made sense for her disability to be such like a huge part of her story, because it's obviously such a huge part of her life, but because we're talking so much about her disability, I just found it really difficult to connect to her as a character. And like, she had this really dry sense of humour, which I normally get on board with. Like, if anybody has met Simon or interacted with Simon, he is like the driest person on the planet, like, and I tend to like that humour. But she always just came across as like really cunty, I felt, as opposed to it just being like dry humour. And I just really didn't enjoy that aspect of it. I felt like she made pretty poor decisions sometimes as well, and then relied on other people to sort of look after her and take care of her because of her own poor decision making. So I didn't enjoy that aspect of it. And this is hella spicy. Hella spicy. I hadn't heard that for any of the reviews of the people that I watched talking about this book, really. It's a romance, so I would expect there to be like a couple of sex scenes, because there always is, like, which is fair. It's not always my cup of tea, it's not why I pick books up. I don't really like spice, but if it's like a romance, I accept that there's probably going to be a couple, and like, it's fine, I can deal with it. But this was like very spicy, and just made it difficult for me to ship the relationship between her and Red, like, because it was just like so sex focused. Like, I just couldn't really get to know either of their personalities enough to care about their connection, and like, I don't care about spice, so like, I wasn't enjoying that element of it either. So I just felt like that was far too much of that in here, that was also stopping me from get to know the characters, and I'm such a character driven reader that this just wasn't going to be it for me. I also want to talk a wee bit about one of the plot points in here, which is one of the big reasons I decided to DNF it. And so, like, a wee bit of a spoiler warning for if you haven't read this, you can skip to when I'm talking about the next book. But one of the main plot points in here is that Chloe has been spying on Red. Like, they live opposite each other, and like, he paints like topless and stuff, and she's been like beady-eyed watching him. And so there are times where she then interacts with him, and we get her internal monologue, and she's like, if only he knew I'd saw the abs. Like, if only he knew that, like, and that was just very fucking weird to me. And I don't know what is feminist about you just being a shitty guy, to be honest. Like, I don't think that that makes it particularly feminist because you're being a creep. Like, no good enough. I think that if this was written the other way about, and it was him spying on her, and he was like, oh my god, if only she knew that I had saw they tits, like, people would be up in arms and be like, oh my god, what a fucking creep, who would ship that, blah blah blah. If this was written by a male author, people would also be like, so male gazy, absolutely gross, ugh. But because it's written by a woman and it's a female character being a pervert, apparently we're grand with that, and like, that's fine. And I get it, like, guys have been creeps and perverts to us for literal decades, and so like, I get the whole argument of like, oh well, like, it's your time to date back a wee bit, like, Magic Mike, you know what I mean? Like, it's just no for me though. Like, I think be a better version. Like, we have been the ones who have been perved on and creeped it for years and years, so be better, because like, we know what that's like. So that element of it was just like really fucking gross for me, and I could not get over it to finish this book. And to be honest, it's really put me off Talia Hibbert as an author. Like, I probably wouldn't pick up anything else she's written just based on my experience with this book. Like, I really didn't enjoy it at all. And a lot of the reason for DNF was defo the spice. Like, I'm not a spicy gal. Like, I'm defo's a vanilla. Like, we didn't be reading that in my books. I'm fine. Like I'm a wee YA PG-13 kind of gal. That's too much for me. So it was a DNF. And then lastly, I read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and I buddy read this with Gaia from Gaia Athena. We have spoken about this series quite a bit. Gaia had read the first one, but she hadn't continued the series, and I had gotten like a wee novella by Becky Chambers, To Be Taught Fortunate, which is set in the same world, in a book box, but I hadn't read any of the rest of the series, so I was like collecting the rest of the series so that I could finally pick them up. And like, I've seen nothing but great things about this, so even though I don't read a lot of sci-fi, like I was pretty confident this was going to be a sci-fi I was going to love. So we spoke about it for a wee while, and we decided we were just going to buddy read the series together, so we started, and it was excellent, I must say. The only thing about this, right, is this has been billed to me so many times as cozy sci-fi rather, because I really enjoy cozy fantasy and cozy mysteries, and I'm here for the cozy vibes, and I wouldn't describe this as cozy sci-fi, to be honest. Cozy for me, like, it needs to create a certain sort of atmosphere, and while it's very like found family and lovely on the ship, I don't think it's necessarily cozy. And also, if it's cozy, like the plot's pretty low stakes and we're in it for the character development, and while there is so much character development in here, and I loved all the characters so much, I think that the stakes were pretty high in here, and so I wouldn't have billed this as cozy sci-fi. So when I first went into it, I was a wee bit like, oh, like, it wasn't quite what I was expecting, but when I sort of let that go and I just read it for what it was, I thoroughly adored this. I thought that the plot was excellent. It gets a really good balance of the plot moving, but it not moving so fast that we aren't getting how everybody is feeling and dealing with these situations that are happening. And obviously I'm a character driven reader. I'm all the time like, okay, but like I wish I had more, like I wish I knew how the character felt about that situation, and I wish I knew how they were going to deal with this, and this book really does that. And I hugely appreciated that. I loved it. I really loved Rosemary as a main character, and I thought that it was such a good idea for us to be coming in and joining the Wayfarers like with Rosemary, because then when we're learning a lot of like the technical spacey stuff, it doesn't feel quite as info dumpy as other sci-fi that I have read, and that tends to be one of my main issues with sci-fi, is when things are so info dumpy that I just feel like I am not connecting. But because like it feels more natural in here because we're learning the same time as Rosemary, it doesn't feel that way, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm going to talk spoilers about this book, so if anybody isn't interested in spoilers, this was a 5-star read for me. I would highly recommend it for anybody who enjoys sci-fi or anybody who is quite new to the genre like myself. I found it to be hugely accessible and enjoyable. So I really shipped Rosemary and Sussex in here, to be honest, and I sort of shipped them for like the day in order that Rosemary stepped on the ship and she saw Sussex. I was like, oh my god, if they get together I'll die, and they got together and I died. It was great. I really loved the amount of different species on this ship that we learned about, and we got to know them as people, but then we got to learn like their customs and their mannerisms and like their familial connections, and just loads and loads of different things about them, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that it was excellent. And another thing that I really loved about this book is like the social commentary in here. We talk a lot about gender and we talk a lot about pronouns, and I say it all the time, but like it's terrible that fantasy and sci-fi like are better at talking about gender and pronouns than we are in real life. I just loved how easy it was. It was like so accessible, like they just spoke about gender and pronouns as if it was a standard which we need to get to in real life, and nobody was a bigot or a dickhead about anything. It just was what it was, and everybody accepted it as fact and used the proper pronouns and moved on with their life, which was phenomenal. They also talk a lot in here about war, and you know how we're pretty shit at that as a species, us humans, and there are other species in here who are worse at it, like who kill each other more than we do, which is alarming. And like there's sort of that element of it, like, well, if we don't actually get any better at this, like we could be in the same situation as this other race where like they're gone extinct and there's no a lot of them, and like fuck that shit. And we also talk a lot about the environmental element and impact in here as well, and so I really enjoyed all that social commentary. Oh, it's very, very, very prevalent to everything that's going on in life right now, and I just thought that it was excellent. I think that the character work in here is superb, and to be honest, that is like the biggest standout for me. There were so many moments in this book where I was just in tears. You know, Dr. Chef talking about his past, bubbling, you know, the whole scene with Lovey, bubbling, and I was on a train. Like I finished this when I was on the train going to see and coming back like my mum and dad, and I was just howling on a computer. Like it just really got me. I like that there's a bit of tension in here as well with Corbin being on the crew, and it just adds like another element of interest, and it'll be interesting to see his character development going forward now, now that he knows about his past and stuff, and just seeing like who he wants to become. I think that he'll go through a big period where he needs to decide like whether his views and opinions are his own or whether they're views and opinions that have been forced on him by his dad. So I think that that will be quite interesting also. But it was a 5-star read. I thoroughly loved it, and I already can't wait to pick up the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!